13, the last week of Laws 7014, residence visas. No doubt you'll be turning your attention to the final exams. It's a big challenge for some of you who have to prepare for 4 exams at the same time. How do you go about doing that? It may be impossible for you to revise every aspect of everything that you've learned in the short time that you have left before the exams. So you should concentrate on what will be examined in the final exams. Exam hints will be provided soon to help with your preparation. Once you have them, try to identify which Moodle activities those topics relate to. Then go back to those Moodle activities, as well as the notes you made on them, and revise them thoroughly. The answers to the short answer questions come from the activities in Moodle or the resources such as the INZ Operational Manual, which those activities refer to. For the Laws 7014 final exam, there will be 9 short answer questions and 2 client scenarios, a partnership category scenario and an SMC scenario. The 2 client scenarios will require a lot more research and revision than the short answer questions. In answering questions related to the scenarios, you need to display an in-depth knowledge of the topic you're writing on, including knowledge of relevant immigration instructions. For the short answer questions, only 2 of the 9 questions require you to provide a reference to immigration instructions, and the exam hints we give you will tell you which topics require references to instructions. You'll be given client scenarios about a week before the final exams. The only thing that will be missing from the scenarios will be the question or questions that you'll be asked in the exam. So you need to do your research of the client's situations before you enter the exam room. Don't just guess the most likely question that you could be asked. Prepare for any kind of question relating to the scenario that you're given. For example, a partnership-based scenario could ask you about partnership category requirements, New Zealand supporting partner requirements, health and character requirements, lodgement requirements. Prepare for any question relating to what you've learned. Because you don't know the question that you'll be asked about a client scenario, I highly recommend that you don't pre-write your answers to the scenario questions before you go into the exam room. The worst exam papers I've marked were those where students guessed the questions, then copied out the essays they'd pre-written once they got into the exam room. Unfortunately, the answers they wrote usually didn't answer the questions that they were given. The key to good exam results: answer the questions that you're given. Use your 10 minutes at the start of the exam to think about what the questions are asking. In this last week of the 7014 course, our first activity looks at what happens after the grant of residence in New Zealand. Someone who's approved residence can stay in New Zealand indefinitely, but if they leave New Zealand, they may not have the indefinite right to return to New Zealand. In most cases, when people are approved residents initially, their residence visa conditions allow them to leave New Zealand and return any time within the next 2 years. But if they leave New Zealand during this period and never return, and never apply for a second or subsequent resident visa, then their travel conditions will expire and they will lose their right to reside in New Zealand. In Activity 13.1, we teach you about how people who already hold residence in New Zealand can qualify for a permanent resident visa, or PRV. A PRV simply means that the travel conditions on a resident visa are indefinite. Once someone holds a PRV, they can leave New Zealand for as many years as they want and can return to New Zealand at any time. Second activity this week looks briefly at special categories of residence, including domestic violence categories and refugee family reunification categories. You may never work in these areas as an LIA, but you still need to know about them, if only to refer clients on to specialists in these fields. The third activity this week looks at the criteria for adoptions to be acceptable to Immigration New Zealand, which is relevant to the dependent child category you studied last week, as well as to other residence categories where principal applicants may wish to include a child they've adopted in their residence visa application. Have a great week of study ahead and best of luck for the final exams.